So today I'm going to be talking about the different wagons and carriages that are located at the San Juan Bautista Mission. They're all pretty much in the plaza stable, although some are going to be back behind the stable, back where the blacksmith was. It's located next to the Plaza Hotel, which is a very big building right there. The stable was built in 1861 because there was a lot of traffic. There needed to be a place to store the horses overnight. When the railroad was built in about 1876, it no longer became a necessity, but it was still used. And a lot of the traffic came from people traveling between Los Angeles and San Francisco. However, there was a lot of local traffic that did use the stables and the hotel. So the first wagon that I'm going to be talking about is the Hotel Hollister wagon. It carried people from the railroad depot to the Plaza Hotel. The next wagon is the mud wagon. It's more similar to a bus because it could carry a lot of people, and it carried people from Tres Pinos area, which is just south of Hollister, to New Andres Quicksilver Mine. This was about in 1890. So the next wagon that I'm going to be talking about is the buckboard. The best way that I can describe this is as a off-road type of vehicle because it was perfect for those who didn't live in town. It was perfect because the springs were more sturdy, and the reason why they used more sturdy springs on the carriage was because they would be going through not so smooth roads, rougher terrain, basically. Next is the mud wagon / chuck wagon. It was more of an all-purpose type of vehicle, and it actually had an attachment for a kitchen, or you could leave that attachment off so you could haul more stuff, which is great. Okay, next is the Park Phaeton. It was basically a wagon that was seen as more reckless by others that drove other types of wagons. The wheels, they didn't come up all the way, which basically makes it so it's easier for the wheels to turn. It's easier to go around those sharp turns, and you can also make turns more quickly. So next is the hunting brake. There's actually 2 hunting brakes that are at the Mission, but this one could carry up to 8 people, and generally it could use up to 4 horses if it wanted to. So next is the Rockaway. It was a family carriage, and the reason why it was considered to be a family carriage is because it could fit a whole family inside of it, and it seemed to be more affordable, and you didn't necessarily have to have a driver. So next up is a beer wagon. This thing is massive. It has a bunch of different barrels that it could carry. It was generally used by John Weiland's brewery. Usually what it would do is carry beer all the way to San Jose. And the interesting thing is sometimes the barrels would actually burst if it got too hot. So they would generally, on those hot days in the summer, bring wet towels, basically cold water, and put these towels that were wet on top of the barrels in hopes that it would keep the beer colder so the barrels wouldn't burst and basically lose all the beer. Next is the French Top Surrey. If you've ever seen the movie Vertigo, you have most likely seen this wagon because it did make an appearance in this movie. It was used in about the 1860s and 70s, and it was known as a family carriage. Next is the Barouche. It was actually a French carriage and considered yesterday's Rolls Royce. It was a very fancy wagon. It was owned by a man named William Chapman Ralston, who was actually the founder of the Bank of California. He was a very wealthy man. So up next is another hunting brake. This one could carry up to 4 passengers instead of 8, so it was generally smaller than the one that I talked about earlier, but it's basically very similar, just smaller. So the coal dump wagon was pretty important. It would deliver coal to various businesses in the area. It could actually hold up to 1 ton of coal, and it generally would deliver coal to the blacksmith, which is located, like I said in the beginning of the video, behind the stables, or to the Plaza Hotel right there as well. It was actually able to dump the coal, which was pretty cool. The way it could do that is they would basically stop the back wheels and have the horses back up, making it so the wagon would be tilted upwards and the coal would fall out. Up next is the water wagon. It was used to keep the dust down on those hot, dry summer days. And this concept actually can still be seen at dirt racetracks. It's just now, instead of it being a wagon, it's a truck. So next, there's actually two names for this wagon in particular. It could either be the Transport Freight Wagon or the California Rackbed Wagon. It was a great wagon for hauling, and if you can't tell, this wagon is huge. It's very long. You could definitely haul things like, lumber or other various large items. It had a raised driver's seat, so the driver of the wagon could actually see over the horses and could be aware of all of his surroundings. Lastly, I want to talk about the ladies' drop front phaeton. It was actually more difficult to get in because of the fenders. They were larger. However, the reason why it was so important is because prior to this type of wagon, a lot of the times women would get their skirts or dresses, the bottoms of them, very dirty. This helped not eliminate the problem completely, but it helped cut back on the mud that would fly up and get the bottoms of their dresses dirty. Thank you for listening to me explain about the different carriages and wagons at the San Juan Bautista Mission. They're very interesting, and I hope you learn lots.